All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. JL Scott Fishing and Eats. Hope everybody is doing well. We are going to break down in the DWR Staunton River report for 2023. Big shout out to Basscast Kayak Series in Western Virginia. Scheduled an event this last weekend, so I didn't want to do this until after that event took place. Try to do those things out of respectful for those anglers because we do break down sections, and this report has pretty much the section that has the highest density of smallmouth, which would have pertained to that event. So just to be respectful of that. But I really like it when we see a lot more of these kayak trails and bass fishing trails in general schedule a lot of these other rivers, and they're not known. Unless you get on a very, very good day, it's not going to be this 100-inch day that people just always want to break every single river in America against the top rivers in America. But sometimes it's great to have events highlight our river systems, even when there's a tough bite, or there's not a tough bite. We know those rivers that we have in our region that you can go up and you can catch like we did, 37. I think it was 37 or 38 smallmouth bass on the Susquehanna last week, in a day, and that's not even a good day on the Susquehanna, but that's just kind of the way it is. And you go to like I did, big shout out to Adam White, Richmond, for having me down to fish the Middle James, where the bite is just a really, really tough bite, but there's joy in that. There's being out on the water, experiencing the river, experience sections of the rivers that you've probably never fished before. That's what makes a great trip. So I appreciate those trails that are beginning to get over scheduling the same bodies of water every year. That's more important to me than what the total is. So that event trail fished the Staunton River from the Leesville Dam to Brookneal, I believe. So below, from that stretch. So Long Island, I think you got all that in there. So it's a big stretch of. And I could actually pull that up, and we'll see where. Let's go to basscast.com. Okay. All right, we got Morris, Tingen Guides, wins at Phoenix, Illinois, just at Cass, Newton, Edward, victory at Phoenix. So they got the boater sides here, Beltsville, Trombley, Detroit River. That was a pretty cool event. I don't know if you caught any of the updates on that Detroit River event. Tennessee angler Brent Anderson wins MLF. Where's that at? Toyota Series. That's right, St. Lawrence. Letters to the editor. Saturday Night Bass Tournament, Smith Mountain Lake. You can go on basscast.com and check out a lot of stuff from Smith Mountain Lake. It's kind of cool. It's probably one of the few websites that kind of covers Smith Mountain Lake tournament trails. That was a Saturday Night Bass Tournament. So here we go. Saturday, Rip and Lips Bass Fishing, SML Bass Masters. Oh, by the way, it's on here too. You can check it out. Auburn won that Bassmaster College championship on Pickwick Lake. There was a little bit of controversy with that, by the way. Not controversy, but issues, because some people claimed that some of those anglers didn't have fishing licenses. And I kind of get that. It comes to a point where you're like, it's easy to do. I think we've been there. If you fish multi states, I just freaking realized that one of my licenses expired on August 10th. Okay. And it's just I don't know why I haven't put that into my phone, some kind of thing to have all your when you got 6-7 state licenses, you know what I mean? If I was a genius, I would just freaking buy them all on the same date every year, all of them. So I know that that's my date, a birthday date, a date till license expires, but we just don't do that. So I kind of understand that, but there was a little bit of controversy in that. Evidently they were fishing during practice without licenses, which is a no-no. Okay. But I think, baby, if you follow this channel long enough to know, mates, that tournament rules are subjective as hell. Okay. It's really up to the TD. It really doesn't matter what the rules say. It matters what the TD interprets the rules say. So they all got to fit. I mean, not these guys. I mean, Auburn won. I don't think any of their anglers were involved in that. But kudos to them. I don't see the update here on basscast.com for the Basscast Kayak Series event for Saturday. Now is the time. So, all right. So we'll go to we'll use Tourney X. How about that? Which is awesome. Thank you, Dwayne. And we'll get the results here. And I'll start with the results for the Staunton River event just because it'll kind of key in on where these guys were fishing with this report. And I apologize for not being a little prepared this morning. All right, Basscat Series, Staunton River, August 12th. So that was Saturday. I think it was 20. I think I got a report. It was like at the registration deadline. There was 18 or so, 20. 20 anglers fished the event. 112 fish were caught. Okay, so the latest event that we have to highlight the Staunton River. Okay, that's what we go by, right? We always like to break ourselves against events and catch rates and all these things. Okay, not my thing. It's not my poison, but that's the community, and that's how the community breaks. You'll hear about people New River versus Susquehanna and out at the native event just went down on Susquehanna on Saturday. The New River and the Susquehanna River are not even remotely similar at all, in my opinion, other than the fact that they both have good smallmouth population densities. The New River is a native smallmouth range, and the Susquehanna is an invasive smallmouth range. Okay, what does that mean? It means smallmouth bass are not native to the Susquehanna River. They were introduced. They were introduced by both individuals and state. Okay, so why are the populations different? Well, if the state is controlling your population over 30 years with fish stocking and with genetics, taking the best fish and then spawning the best fish with best fish, you're going to start to get a series of classes of great fish, right? Kudos to everyone who loves the smallmouth fish in the Susquehanna. And that's what you got. That's what you have. You don't have to stock the New River. I don't even think they've stocked the New River with smallmouth. Why? Because it's a native fishery in the Ohio River Basin or Ohio River watershed, right? It is a native range for smallmouth. So always keep that in mind, okay? That we artificially, okay, stimulate systems. So artificially, okay, we can create great lakes and great reservoirs, right? By doing things which are unnatural, right? Stocking hybrids, an unnatural thing, right? But we do that, okay? But here, when we look at these reports, when we look at a river system, we can look at it, boom, the actual natural state of the ecosystem, okay? Doesn't mean that it doesn't have man's hand to it. And I'm going to tell you what, a lot of this stuff on this river doesn't really have man's hand to it, okay? It doesn't. There's not a lot of development along this river, like the James River or the Shenandoah in Virginia, rivers like that have been, cities have just gotten grown east and west, north and south, okay, along rivers. And so there's another impact, okay, development and all that stuff. So some of these rivers are actually just great. And I've had reports after this event of just how beautiful the stretch is and just natural. And I get that a lot about the Upper James as well. And so let's take a look. So we get into this. What we're talking about here, again, is Leesville Dam, basically Leesville Dam down to like Kerr, okay? That's basically the area that the report is coming from. Now, the tournament cut it off at Brookneal, which is a fabulous aesthetic-looking area. It's got grass coming in the middle, grass, flat, little. It's just really great. Looks fishy, as they would say. And so from Leesville Dam downstream to headwaters of Kerr Reservoir, Staunton River offers 81 miles of diverse fishing opportunities. When they mean diverse, it's diverse, okay? There are some serious populations growing right now in this river system that a lot of people are unaware of, not really paying too much attention to outside of the region. And I'm talking about sawguy and I'm talking about walleye, okay? I would not be surprised if some records fall in the next few years again. I think we just saw the record get broken this last week. Okay, I wouldn't for sawguy because they're growing like crazy. And I personally want to get down there. So if anyone knows anyone who likes to fish the Staunton River, I want to get down there and fish some fall walleye. I want to go cold water. I want to go down there and hunt down some walleyes myself. Just because I just think it's like if you look at the reports and you see what's happening, and not very many people are talking about it. So if that's something you're interested in, you have that availability as well as catfish and a lot of other stuff that people, obviously the normal species that people are going to fish from. 39 species of fish were sampled in the last Staunton River Fishery survey. 39. I mean, so 11 miles in 1975, 11 miles of the Staunton from Long Island to Brookneal was designated as a scenic river. Makes sense from what the reports I got. They extended that further downstream and now total 62 miles of scenic river, designated scenic river. Here's a good shot of Brookneal right there. Okay. That's just beautiful for smallmouth fishing, right? So let's break into this bass catch really quick while I got it. So I'm going to keep getting off track this morning because I haven't had enough coffee. 20 anglers, 112 fish caught. Winning, congratulations, Jonathan Graham, 85.25. I don't go by the count because I don't really know if everybody registers all their fish. But if you go by the count, he caught seven. He caught 7 fish. He caught a 20.75. That is a Virginia citation. Another Virginia citation smallmouth getting caught. This is going to be a year, believe it or not, even as hot and as humid as it's been, and as low as our rivers have been, depending on what happens this fall, and usually when that happens, the fall bite is crazy sick, okay, in Virginia, okay? Again, I've lived 48 of my 53 coming up here in a few weeks. 53 years of my life in Virginia, that is what happens, is the fall bite is sick, okay, when we have summers like this, okay, where the water's been low for most of the summer, no high water events, no flooding, none of that stuff, but the water's just been hot and 82, 83, 84 degrees hot forever and 2 feet or less. Then we start getting some rains in the early fall and it fills back up, water gets cold, temperatures drop, and that's what we see. So I'm really, really excited. He had a 20.75, a 17, a 16.25, a 16.25, and a 15 for 85.25 inches on Saturday. Followed up by Troy Wines, 79.5. These two are going head-to-head. I think there's one more event on the Shenandoah for this series. Man, you might have to get some people to fish that, actually. But really all depends on I'll get to that in a second. Troy Wines, his largest fish was, he had 2 16.25s, a 15.75, 15.75, and a 15.5. He caught 12 fish total. Okay? So he caught twice as many fish as Jonathan Graham did, but, size matters, right? As they say. Kevin Ramsey in third, 78.25. He caught 5 fish. His largest, 19.25. Jesse, I'm going to mess up your last name. Pingley, 76.25. He caught an 18.75. Dustin Good came in 5th, 75.5 with a 17.25. Mike Brown in 6th with a 16.25. And you get the story from there on out, okay? So congratulations to Jonathan Graham on that event. I think that's his second win. I think that's his second win for the year. I got to pull up my spread on Basscast. I know he won a few last year. I think he won Leesville. I think it's his second win. So him and Troy Wines are at it. Keep in mind, Troy Wines registered a mammoth. Go on the JL Scott Fishing Facebook page. A 23.25 smallmouth, Virginia smallmouth. Okay, just sick. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Okay. But you can find it on my Facebook page or on Troy Bassin' Around or Troy Wines his page. It's bounced all around because it's just crazy. So Kayak Bass Fishing has it too as well. Chad Hoover caught like a 10-pounder and an 8-pounder, I think, on Gunnersville the same day. Really the same hour, and they were on the phone with one another. It's a great story because Troy was fishing in the KBF summer series, smallmouth summer series. So he wanted to make sure that he had a video release of this fish because it was kind of beat up. But still, old fish. I mean, 23.25, crazy from smallmouth fishing in Virginia. Because we got some big ones in Virginia. We don't get enough credit for it. That's part of what my channel direction is going, is to dismiss all these myths that are out there about like, ooh, the mighty this or the mighty that compared to what guys are doing. And these are not even all the citations that are being caught. Okay. I got a buddy of mine, okay, that I fished with over the years. He's got well over 26 citations this year, smallmouth already. Okay. All right. And none of them are registered. All right. Some people register them, some people don't. Okay. And so you got to remember that. You can use the registration data as like a baseline, but just understand it's probably twice that. Okay. Because a lot of people do not go through the process of registering up their fish. All right, get back to the Staunton River aerial photo, braided stretch of the river from near Long Island. Check that out. Okay. Now I will say this, and for people who may be unfamiliar, there's not a lot of access points. Okay, and so you're limited in those access points. Now there are people who like that for a tournament, and there are people who don't like that for a tournament. It's kind of two separate camps because there's just not very many on some of these rivers, which is why a lot of these rivers don't typically get scheduled by a lot of these major series, because there's not enough access points. Everybody be fishing on top of one another, especially if it's a non-motor event, right? Something like a Hobie. They want a lot of access areas, okay? So people aren't all on top of each other, even though they end up all on top of each other. Just saw that on Susquehanna, okay? During that event, where like 30 freaking kayaks passed right by, okay? I don't know if they all ended up in the same place, but you know, there's some stretches on that river that are well known. People fish them every year. The trails come every year, and the same areas get hit every year. Now, I will give kudos to Bassmaster for this October event, which is going to be awesome. In the fall, in October, they're opening up the West Branch and the North Branch, okay, of the Susquehanna. All right, something Hobie hasn't done. Hobie's always been Sunbury to City Harrisburg, okay? So now it's being opened up. And those fish different. So it's going to be really, really interesting and really, really fun to be out on the water during that event, and to see how that matches up with the sections that we always hear about. We always hear about Ferry Boat. We always hear about Inside City Island and Harrisburg. We always hear about Duncannon. We always, always Sellinsgrove. We always hear about all that stuff because, again, it builds a narrative. When an event comes every year in the same place, people begin to think that's the only places where you can go to catch fish on the Susquehanna. And it's just not true. So 81 miles reach of the river has two fairly distinct sections based on habitat availability. That's what we want to concentrate on. The area from Leesville Dam to Brookneal, which is basically where that tournament boundaries were, okay, has a higher gradient, stretches with plenty of braided river channel, and better ratio of rivers and pools. For anglers, this equates to an excellent habitat for smallmouth bass. Absolutely it does, as opposed to the lower section, I can tell you, all right, where it's mostly sand, all right? We know this. In Virginia, this particular type of smallmouth bass, maybe not indicative in other areas, okay? They don't really like sand much. Okay, they like rock and they like gravel and they like shell bed. They don't really like sand. Okay, there's some argument to be made. They'll look out for sand during spawn. But for the most part, they don't like hanging around just sandy bottoms. Okay, they want to find rock. They want to find gravel, that kind of stuff. So, what else we got? For all anglers, this equates to excellent habitat. Walleye, sauger hybrid, the walleye sauger hybrid. Okay, and walleye. The Leesville Dam shell race, which has been closed for a long time, like off and on. So the best walleye fishing in Virginia, but fish can be found throughout the strip. Smallmouth bass fishing is excellent as well, with trophy fish a real possibility. Channel cat, flathead are found in high abundances in this reach as well. Channel cat are collected in greater abundances in the Staunton River than any other river in the state. There's something new. So anglers can anticipate good catch rates. While not as abundant, large flathead catfish are found throughout the entire stretch. The reach, sorry. There's your picture of that tail race. From Brookneal downstream to the confluence with the Dan River, okay? The river has less rocky habitat, is wider, and has predominantly sandy bottom, like I was saying, habitat is abundant along the riverbanks in the forms of fallen trees, so structure, okay? Bass are still found in this area, but densities are generally lower than the upper section. Catfish are still abundant. Anglers have a better chance of catching blue catfish below Brook Neal than they do above. So they have different ranges. Even the catfish have different actual ranges within the same river system. A lot of it has to do with river composition, forage, and what they particularly like. So it's basically saying in the lower section that your smallmouth are going to be aligning to structure, fallen trees and timber, because of the sandy bottom. So in comparison to my river, our smallmouth bass like to relate to the rock in the middle of the river a lot during the summer. Thermals during the fall, all of that stuff, deeper pools, deeper water, all that. But they will relate to rock in the middle of the river. If there's sand in the middle of the river and no rock, you're not going to find the smallmouth bass there. You're going to find them closer to the banks where there's structure and stuff, as this is alluding to. Fishing for river runs striped bass in April and May is a great way for anglers to catch species that occupy the deep water. So that's further down in Kerr. So there's your Brook Neal. That's the Staunton River below Brook Neal. Take a look at this. Smallmouth bass abundance by river site. There you go. It's going to go from upriver to the dam. So the closer you get to the dam, all right, which is up here, all right, the abundance is greater. So from the dam down to Brook Neal, better section for smallmouth bass. All right, let's look at the tracking here. There's your length frequency of smallmouth bass in the river from 98 to 2002. This tells you what they've caught, the numbers they've caught in the length range, okay? It's pretty similar to Maury, pretty similar to Doa. In the lower side, definitely lower side from here. A lot more low here than some of those river systems. So growth and survival are above average, and this leads to a fishery where anglers can expect lower than normal catch rates, but higher than average size. Okay? That's the new river, right? That's what I've always said about the new river is you're going to go there and you're going to catch traditionally you'll catch bigger fish, less of them. Go to Susquehanna, you'll catch a lot of fish and less big fish, my experience. Okay? Hammers and elite anglers and all that may have a totally different perspective on that. I'm just talking about the average person, the average angler. There's your CPU. It's always a great thing. Average smallmouth bass catch rates for electrofishing from 98 dash line represents the long-term average rate. Okay? All this data is contributory to understanding your river system, okay? I could talk about the spawning classes, the good years the lower river appeared, what happens, the natural events like a flooding event, an unnatural event like a chemical spill, an unnatural event like more development, more zoning, building a bridge, removing sediment, all those kind of things that are man-driven will impact all of these things. Long-term average catch rates for the upper river are 9 fish per hour, 5 fish per hour for the lower rate. So twice as many fish caught virtually per hour closer to the dam to Brook Neal than below, okay? Just something that you want to know. That does not mean that you're not going to have a great fishing day on the lower section. Average catch rates for smallmouth bass in the upper Staunton dash line represents long-term. There you go. Average catch rates for in the lower. There you go. See, over the years. It's amazing to me how we've seen these years relate to all these different fisheries in Virginia, okay? That their best years and their worst years tend to align, okay? So depending on a man event, like what happened with the DOA, okay, and chemical stuff years ago, okay? It all seems pretty natural ebb and flow of rain, weather in a region, okay? The natural impacts affecting all the fisheries kind of equally. Another tool used by the Virginia DWR biologists to manage small bass on rivers, estimation of total number of bass in a given reach of river. There's interesting. So these are 3 different reaches, 95, 98, and 142. Those are sections of the river. And this shows here how they fared in each section, okay? Estimated number of smallmouth bass range from 133 miles at a private access site near Brookneal to 536 per mile at another private access. That's number of bass per mile of stretch of river, okay? So check that out. All right? And so 98 is Brookneal, okay? 95 is private access. RKM 95 is private access. Brookneal is RKM 98. And Alta Vista is 142. Yeah, 142 is Alta Vista. Okay? So that tells you right there. Walleye saw guy, you could read all up on that here. Remember, you can find this under the Staunton River Fisheries Management Report 2023. Just Google it, and you can get your own copy of this printed out. I always like to have these printed out in my folders for each lake and each river. There's your walleye. A tag reward study is being performed in 21, 22, 23 to access the extent of angler exploitation of the walleye sockeye fishery. Interesting. Look for signs posted at public fish ranch for additional information. Return the tags if you are lucky enough to catch a tagged fish. It is a very important information that will benefit the fishery. It is. Just same as the angler recognition program, where they can track where these citation fish are coming from. In 2020, 260 walleye and 40 saugeye were tagged for a total of 300 reward tags. That's 3 years ago. Of those 350 were released into Leesville Lake to determine fishing pressure in that reservoir. So they took them from the river, okay, after they were caught, and they released them into the lake. Agree or disagree? That's what they do. 16 to 18-inch walleye dominated the catch in 2021, so anglers can expect a high density of legal fish in the river. 30 tags were returned in 2020 for an exploitation of catch rate of 10%. Again, in 2021, 300 additional tags were placed in walleye, 290 and 10 saugeye, with 50, again, going into Leesville Lake. Or maybe they didn't remove them from the river. Maybe they just emptied a different grouping into the lake. 40 tags were returned. Pretty consistent. 2022, 300 tags were placed to walleye, 282, saugeye 18, with 50 moved to Leesville Lake. Only 14 tags were returned for the exploitation rate of 5%, so a little half as much. Tagging will commence. It's very interesting. As mentioned previously, I don't believe, by the way, walleyes impact the smallmouth population at all, in my opinion. I've seen that in the upper Potomac. Walleye population is growing in the upper Potomac. Most people aren't talking about it because they're not catching them, like, depending on what section you're in. We catch them. So we kind of know we're catching more, and we're catching more, and we're catching more, okay, as the years progress. That tells us that population is growing in those sections, but we're also catching bass. The bass, we haven't seen a drop off, okay, like in the bass population, all right? Even as people are sending alarm bells about flatheads in the upper Potomac, okay? Haven't really seen the impact. Both of these species have increased size potentially. There's the catfish, length, frequency, channel cat, for those of you interested in the catfish dynamic. And then, of course, the bluegill, red deer, and red breast sunfish. Always contributing to forage in any fishery. Some great smallies right there. Canoe and boater access is somewhat limited, like we talked about. Currently, ramps are located at Alta Vista, Long Island, and Brookneal, okay, in the good section that we talk about. Then Watkins Bridge 360 and Staunton River State Park, okay? So you've got, floats in there, in and around there, okay? A real long float, okay? River segment, Leesville, Dalton, 4, Dalton, Alta Vista, 7, Alta Vista, Long Island. That's a good float, but that's almost 20 miles, okay? So that's a weekend. All right. Long Island to Brookneal, 11 miles. So half as much. Okay. That's probably the most popular float that I'm hearing about is Long Island to Brookneal. Okay. Great fishing, 11 miles. You can do it in about eight hours. Okay. Brookneal, Watkins Bridge, 360. There's your river floats. Print this out, mates. You can find this again at Staunton River Fisheries Management Report 2023. Just Google it. You can pull it up. You can print it out. You can save these float areas, mark them on your map, and you'll be good to go for the next time you want to hit up the Staunton River. All right, mates.